I always have the book by David Buss, Evolutionary Psychology. I have his textbook behind me, by the way. He's written several books, The Murderer Next Door, Evolution of Desire, Why Women Have Sex, When Men Behave Badly, etc. He's written several books, but the one I put behind me is actually the textbook from University of Texas at Austin, or the one I think they use it at Harvard also. That's the main one that I use because evolutionary psychology ties other than the physics, it ties every single thing together on my show, right? Why is it that we do the things we do? Where do our proclivities come from? And my answer is that all of our proclivities, all of our habits come from they had to have aided in survival at some point in our ancestral past.
I tie it all to reproduction. So I haven't read any of the books you're talking about, but I have this theory where everything that exists in order to mate in human. I can put it down to like the table, the microphone, what you're wearing, this building is in existence, everything in order to procreate.
Yeah, that makes sense. But their aims for men and women are different.
Right.
So, for instance, like even to what you said, the question I get the most frequently is, where does homosexuality fit in the whole ideal of evolutionary psychology? And the answer is, this is just a hypothesis. I can't prove this. But the idea of Satoshi Kanazawa, and I've heard other people come up with different theories. One theory that I see as probably more likely is that throughout history, about 25% of men reproduced. Right. It's much closer to like 85, 90% of women, but 25% of men reproduced. There were men who had multiple wives throughout their history, or their wives would die in childbirth, or something to that effect would happen. And we're talking about the 300,000 years of Homo sapiens. And so because about 25% of men reproduce, you had 75% of men who would either die in childbirth, die as young, or die in some sort of accident, hunting or whatever, or never got to the point where they earned a wife.
Right.
They earned a sexual partner. And so because of that, you had societies throughout the majority of society, this idea of surplus men, which Richard Reeves talks about, this idea, the idea of surplus men. After the agricultural revolution, we have the institute of marriage. And once we have marriage, and like modern marriage, not like there's pair bonding that happened before the agricultural revolution, but when you come up with the concept of modern marriage, what you have is encouraged monogamy. And now what it does is it takes men lower on the socioeconomic scale, and at least they get to have sex with someone. They get at least a wife. So you have the sharecropper farmer and his sharecropper wife. Normally, if you let things to go through their natural causes before the agricultural revolution, that man would have had no wife. And now, because of encouraged monogamy, he's this middle to low status man who has a middle to low status wife. I'm just throwing out terms here, and so you had fewer surplus men because of that happened. And well, social media has created a greater number of surplus men, and so we go back into that place. So the question of homosexuality, where does that come from? Well, if you have enough surplus men, some men not choosing to mate with women actually benefits the tribe.